Let's get into some NHL, which I know both of you guys are eager to talk about. Either of you guys watch any hockey thus far?
I have watched it at a bar just because it was on. But I actually get more info from my grandfather, who is a big hockey guy.
Okay.
And he was telling me the other day, I guess the Vegas Golden Knights, in the third period, as soon as the puck dropped, they just started brawling because they were losing like 6-1. And I was like, I love that. That's so funny.
Yeah, the Avalanche had a 9-minute power play, which is half the period.
9-minute power play because they just started brawling after the puck dropped.
Yeah, it's awesome. Hey, and your St. Louis Blues unfortunately bowed out in the first round, but in defense against definitely the Stanley Cup favorite Avalanche. So if the Avalanche win, at least you can say, "Oh, we lost to the champions." But for those listening that are curious about the world of hockey, very basic storylines. Avalanche are by far the favorites right now. They are playing the best hockey in the world right now as far as the NHL goes. I don't know what's going on over in Russia, but they are playing the best hockey right now. The Lightning up 1-0 against the Hurricanes. Game 2 is tonight, actually, so hopefully you're listening to this with the Tampa Bay Lightning up 2-0 in the series. But that's going to be a fun one in this household, let alone in this household. Matt the Hurricanes fan, myself, the Bolts fan, we will be going at it. Maybe we'll do shots for every opposing team goal. Do you guys like the sound of that? Like every time the other team scores a goal, we have to take a shot.
You have to.
We might.
The only way.
Have to.
We've talked about doing that. Tonight might be the night. We actually did it one time, and it was a 0-0 game and went to overtime. and the one goal was scored, and we were like, "Well, this was the most fun game ever."
And like overtime, I did not know how that worked. What, they just play for 20 more minutes?
Yeah,
golden goal style. Like,
but it's like less players, right?
Well, no. So it used to be throughout the regular season and the playoffs, 20-minute overtime, 5-on-5, first score wins. Well, now in the regular season, to speed up the game and help with, fatigue and stamina, it's 3-on-3 for 5 minutes. And if it's still not decided, then they go to shootout. But in the playoffs, they resort back to the normal rules, which by far, I don't know if there's a stat on this. This NHL playoffs have been the absolute craziest as far as overtime goes. I'm pretty sure over 50% of the games have gone to overtime. At least it feels that way.
I was 100% expecting a penalty shootout. I was at your house. We were watching a game, and all of a sudden it says 20 minutes. I was like, oh, so whenever they're done with this, they're gonna do the shootout, right? You're like, no. I'm like, excuse me? Like, I'm pretty sure I saw Mighty Ducks. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. They do shootouts. That's so much fun. Even I, as a not hockey fan, enjoy that. And they're just going to play another 20 minutes if they don't score.
It keeps going. And in fact, okay, so like
those guys die if they play forever. You know that, right?
It goes crazy. Like that's why in the playoffs and in hockey, it's like if your team can sweep or win in 5, it's such a big advantage, especially if the team you're going up against. Like for example, the Lightning, they won in Game 6. Still a pretty long series. But I'm pretty sure the last 4 games for the Carolina Hurricanes were all overtime games. I'm pretty sure game 1 and 2 were normal, and then 3 and 4 double overtime, 5 overtime, 6 overtime. And that's 2 extra games of hockey mixed in. Like, that's insane. So the Edmonton Oilers with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they got swept by the Winnipeg Jets, who barely made it into the playoffs. Or actually, I don't say barely. They limped their way into the playoffs. They were secured in the playoffs, but they just weren't a hot team going into the playoffs. The Oilers get swept they were up 4-1 in game 3. Okay, so hear me out on this. Up 4-1 in game 3, and then the Jets score 3 goals in the last 7 minutes and then win it in double overtime. Like that's just absurd to me. That whole situation, like you have the best player on earth with Connor McDavid and the best backup guy, Leon Draisaitl, and you lose 4-0 to the Jets in 4 games. So that was embarrassing. Idiot. But the biggest, what's up? Go for it.
I said idiots. You have Connor McDavid. I've never heard of this man, and you still lose the game.
Yeah, he's the fastest guy in the sport. So it's absurd. What I will say, the most fun series definitely of the first round, and the Vegas versus Minnesota was fun, but it's just 2 teams. A lot of people on the East Coast don't really care about. The Hurricanes Predators was a really fun series that not a lot of people were expecting. The Islanders and the Penguins was another great series. And in fact, the Islanders Bruins series, which is going on right now. Game 3 is, I think, tomorrow. That's a slugfest. And go on to YouTube. Barstool does a Borelli's live stream. That's the most entertaining part of the game. You can watch at this bar in New York, Frankie Borelli, his dad has a Italian restaurant in Long Island, and they get 100 people in this restaurant, and they do a live stream, and there's 3 Bruins fans who all work for Barstool, and the rest are all Islanders fans, and it's just a hell of a time to watch. It's so fun. We watched it last night. Islanders go up 3-1. Bruins come back 3-3, and then it goes into overtime for the winner by the Islanders. But we have to talk about this. We've talked basketball. 3-1 series, blown leads. What do you guys think of when I say that?
In basketball?
It just in any sport.
It's Cleveland versus Golden State.
Cleveland versus Golden State, right? Is there any other 3-1 series leads that have been blown that are notable?
Are we talking the world of baseball? We got the World Series with the Chicago Cubs.
That's another good one, right?
That was a 3-1 lead that Cleveland had, right?
Or just massive blown leads, right? Like back in the mid-2000s, the Red Sox coming back from 3-0 down in the ALCS to beat the Yankees. That was a huge one. Came back to win. I think they won the World Series that year. I think that was 2004. Atlanta
New England
losing the Super Bowl. That was a big one.
That's probably the biggest single game.
Yeah, that had to be.
Just choke job I've ever seen.
That might have been the biggest. That might have been the biggest playoff comeback win. No, actually, the Chiefs Colts. I think. Remember our freshman year with Andrew Luck? The Chiefs were up 28-31-7 or 31-3 or something, and the Chiefs came all the way back and won 35-31. That was kind of wild. But now you can add the Toronto Maple Leafs to the list because if Connor McDavid is the best player on the planet, Austin Matthews is a top 5 player on the planet, and he has definitely a better supporting cast. They were up 3-1 to the Montreal Canadiens, or actually it's Canadiens. For some reason, everyone's saying it weird like that now, Canadiens. Up 3-1 against Montreal, and the Maple Leafs blew it in Game 7, the biggest game of their franchise in recent memory, at home with healthcare workers in attendance, and they couldn't even pull through for the heroes of the community.
We just went through a pandemic. You couldn't do it for them?
Yeah, right? How do you not show up and say, we're going to win this one, and we're going to lay it all out there for you guys? And they get goose-egged at home, 3-0 to the Canadiens, who, along with the Predators, the Canadiens are the worst team in the playoffs. Okay, so they advanced to round 2. And the Maple Leafs,
worst team in the playoffs?
The Canadiens were
That's pretty ironic.
The Canadiens?
Right? Isn't it a Canadian sport?
Yeah, it's up there. Team? We don't complain. Well, Toronto Maple Leafs are they have the longest Stanley Cup drought in the sport. I think it's 56 years now, and they actually haven't won a series in 17 years. They haven't won a playoff series.
That's insane.
In 17 years.
It's really amazing how many teams are like that.
It's kind of like the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they haven't done anything in the playoffs since their last Super Bowl runs. I don't think they've won a game.
Yeah,
have they won a playoff game since then? I think Blake Bortles has more playoff wins than the Dallas Cowboys in the 2000s.
That's the question I always pose to people when they're like, "Oh, you guys are Jags fans." Haha, you guys haven't won. You only win 3 games a year. It's what's the difference between a team that wins maybe 3 games a year versus a team that might win 8 to 10 every year and then never win a Super Bowl? If you've not won a Super Bowl as long as us, we're in the same boat.
Don't talk to me. Don't talk
to me. Same boat. I don't care if you have 10-win seasons, 12-win seasons. If we still haven't won a Super Bowl in the same amount of time, isn't that the goal? You either win or lose.
Dallas Cowboys, irrelevant since 1980.
Yep.
We need those shirts. So that's what's going on in the world of hockey. But if you're not a huge hockey fan, I beg of you just to watch a little bit of it because it is so fun when they're beating each other up and it just gets physical. And plus, for you guys, it would make the podcast fun to be able to talk hockey with you guys. So for my sake, if you want to watch a game or two, go for it.